What does honor mean to you? What does freedom mean to you? These questions will remain the same in each interview, but the power lies within these amazing answers. I'm Tony Reese, and it is with great honor I introduce to you the next installment of My Life Lessons Showcasing Veterans. Hi there, I'm Tony Reese, and welcome to My Life Lessons Showcasing Veterans. First and foremost, thank you very much for your service. That's the most important thing.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. So today I have Billy Worrell with me. Welcome, Billy, to the project. Now, if you would, take a moment and tell us how long you were of service, a little bit about yourself, and where you served.
Okay. I spent 4 years in the U.S. Navy from 1970 to 1974. And while I was on every ocean and half the seas in the planet. I traveled. So I was not home much, which was kind of a problem for me because I got married right after I got into the Navy. Mm-hmm. So my wife was always home with my son, and I was somewhere else. And what was frustrating for her was that back in those days, because of the Vietnam War, every night on TV, the 6 o'clock news and the 11 o'clock news, she was seeing people getting shot and blown up, and that's all she was seeing. And I was just seeing the ocean and all the countries we visited.
Oh, that must have been very difficult.
Yes. After I got out of the Navy, I had gone into junior college after high school. And that's how you got out of not going into the draft. In 1969, all the college deferments were canceled, so I got drafted in '69, and I enlisted in the Navy, and I didn't have to report until 180 days later. When I got out of the Navy, I went back to junior college again, and I ended up getting a job with IBM because I was studying computer programming back then, and I got hired, and I went to school and worked at the same time, and I worked for IBM for about 29 years, and then I retired, and I've been married for 47 years.
Wow.
I have 2 children and 4 grandchildren, and we all get along. I have 4 granddaughters, and they're all getting up near the teenage years. So my wife and I laugh because we went through that, and my kids haven't been through that yet, so they don't know what's coming.
That's right.
Even though they were there.
It's totally different, isn't it?
Yes, totally different.
So let's go into the project, okay?
Okay.
So who was your inspiration during your time of service?
In the military, there's a line between the enlisted personnel and the officers, and the enlisted personnel aren't even allowed to have personal conversation with the officers. And I had an engineering officer who was a full commander in the Navy, and that's a pretty high rank. And he used to take me aside and talk to me because he saw things in me that he liked. And he tried to inspire me to get a training that the average enlisted person didn't have. And he tried to talk me into going into an officer candidate school. But that would have meant that I had to extend my time, and I wanted to do my 4 years and be gone and get into my personal life, not spend a career in the Navy.
So he inspired you because he took the time,
Yes.
regardless of his rank,
Yes.
to reach out and try to facilitate your own development.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And he could have had impacts on his career if other people knew that he was trying to coach me.
How so?
Because that wasn't his job. He wasn't supposed to be talking to this enlisted man.
Why do you think he did?
He saw
The
something.
potential.
He saw something, yes. Yes.
What was your greatest life lesson that you learned during your time of service?
For some people, it might be depressing, but my first week on board ship, I worked in the engine room. I was a machinist mate. And an engine room is a very, very, very dangerous place to be. There are so many machines that can break. The ships back then were powered by steam, and the steam's very hot. And if you get a steam leak, you're going to smother to death in seconds. It'll burn you. And we also produced all of the water that we drank and washed with. And we also produced all of the electricity. So some of the machines on board ship use very, very high voltage. And the guy in charge of the engine room, he had a few weeks left in the Navy, and he was getting out. And unfortunately, he wasn't thinking about all the things that he knew about for the last 24 years. And I went home for the weekend. I came back, and I asked where so-and-so was, and they said, oh, he's dead. He had closed the circuit on the electric. If you touch something high voltage with one hand, it hurts. If you use two hands, the electricity goes through your whole body. So he literally fried himself on this thing because he wasn't thinking. That had me the rest of the time I was in the engine room, you had to be constantly aware of what could happen.
So he taught you a valuable lesson never not to pay attention.
Right.
How do you apply that lesson to your life after service?
Well, interestingly, I got into computer programming with IBM, and it took a long time to fix problems because you fixed one program, and a process might have gone through 30 or 40 programs. And you fix this one program, and then that fix caused a problem. You fix that problem, and so on and so on and so on. So it took you sometimes a month to fix a problem. But if you're now thinking about all the potential things that could happen, I carried that over into my programming life where, okay, if I fix this, now I'm thinking about down the line. So you cut fixing a problem in 30 days down to fixing a problem in 15 days. And then when you share that with your coworkers and they're thinking about, now we were fixing problems in days. After we put this process, you hear the term shit happens. And it sounds funny, but if you really dig into what that means, stuff happens. So think about the stuff that could happen, and you're going to prevent it from happening, and potentially.
It may not always, if
Correct.
you don't, it may
Correct.
not always result in something tragic.
Right.
However, it could result, if you don't think that far, it could result in a great deal of money lost, resource loss, all of that. That is a major definition of continuous improvement, too.
Yes. And you now come across thinking about something potentially something you never would have thought about. Oh, wow, here's something else I can do. So you start some other new process.
Has that carried into your personal life as well, that life lesson?
Yes, and I hear regularly at home from my spouse of 47 years, you're not in IBM anymore, because I'm constantly thinking about, don't turn that knob because X, Y, Z. I don't want to hear all that, So,
So you're always thinking ahead.
Always.
The what ifs. How did your service and your experiences affect your life?
Before I went into the Navy, I was young. I was in my early 20s, but you don't think about anything except what you're doing. You don't think into the future. And when I was working, My nickname that I had at work was Billy Badass, because work was work. And I worked hard, and I also played hard. So when it's lunchtime, we had fun during lunch. Lunch is over. I don't want to hear your jokes. I don't want to hear about the guy, your neighbor. I don't want to hear about your girlfriend or your wife or your kids. We're doing work. And now that I'm not working, I still have the same mentality. So I support veterans right now. And that is a really broad term because there's so many different programs around, and I'm involved in almost all of them, and I have the same mentality. So people are constantly calling me, day or night, and I told them, call me there. I slept with my phone when I worked because I had to fix those computer programs right away. So I still have the habit of, I got the house phone, I have my cell phone next to the bed. That's it.
So the process of always knowing, staying one step ahead of things that you learned in that life lesson that you learned, carried forth after service in work, which you spoke of. How did that impact you as far as your life now with the work that you do on behalf of the veterans? Does that all come together now for the work you do now?
It does. It does. Because when I'm helping this person, I'm thinking about, well, maybe this other program could also benefit from some of these things, so I get other people working together.
Right. So it really broadens. You're almost like the connector.
Yes.
The connector of services.
Yes.
And thinking ahead, you just don't need this one, but you might need this one down the road.
Right.
Based upon what you've learned in the service.
Right.
That's amazing. Billy, what does honor mean to you?
Honor? I wrote myself some notes here. Honor means respect, esteem, and admiration. We live in a media world now, and everybody has their opinions about things, and other people are listening to some of these opinions and think that these opinions are important. Well, I don't think those opinions are important until I dig through all the pieces. Example, sports people. People talk about these sports people, and I don't honor sports people. They don't necessarily, doing their job, playing the sport, help the world. They don't help the planet. They help the people who want to watch them, but I never grew up watching sports. Never. I'll watch a game here or there, but I'm not watching and rooting for this team or rooting for that team or this league or that league. There are people, and I don't need to name names, but there are people that are doing things that are helping other people.
Mm-hmm. And that's where you find your honor.
Yes.
And that you use the words respect,
Yes.
admiration, and there was a third.
Esteem.
High esteem?
Yes. Yes.
Last question, Billy.
Yes.
What does freedom mean to you?
Freedom, okay. Freedom means that me or anybody else has the ability to speak their mind. They have the ability to act about things, and they won't be hindered by doing them. Traveling around the world, I was in a lot of countries, and you would hear, oh, you can't say that. Why? Because you'll end up in jail. You'll lose your job. Okay? In this country, we always had the ability, even though you might hold yourself back at work, but you have the right in a free country to say, I don't like Joe Blow, I don't like Sally, I don't like the things they're doing, I don't like this law, I don't like this color, and I won't necessarily be hindered by that. Directly, I mean, indirectly, yes. If you're an Eagles fan and I start talking about the Giants all the time, you could not do some favors for me. Mm-hmm. Okay? But I still have the ability and the right to do that, to talk about the Giants.
And you don't have to ask anybody's permission to do
Correct.
so.
Correct.
So that is what freedom means to you.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Billy Worrell, thank you so very much for being part of this very important project. It was an honor to have you here today.
Well, thank you for the program that you're doing.
Thank you.
Okay.